We're here to unpack ideas, trying to get a clearer view of things, including maybe what's going on inside our own heads.
Exactly. And today, it's all about that inner landscape understanding and, well, managing our thoughts.
Right. And we're diving into a source you shared. It was a YouTube podcast, Tom and Hen.
Yeah, that's the one. They teach English, actually, but they got into this whole topic of controlling your mind for, personal growth. A really interesting angle.
It is. And we thought, okay, this is perfect. Let's really dig into this for you, our listeners, to help navigate that sometimes pretty overwhelming mental chatter.
Mm-hmm. So the mission today is really to pull out the key insights from what Tom and Hen discussed. Why does managing your mind even matter? And maybe how can you start thinking about it?
Okay, let's jump in. They kicked off with this central idea. Your mind is this incredibly powerful tool.
It really is. It can lead to fulfillment, success, all that good stuff. But, and this is the crucial part, if it's just left to its own devices,
and then it can become a source of stress, negativity.
Yeah, which, let's be honest, we've all felt. And Hen, in the source, she really tapped into that common feeling, didn't she? Feeling kind of powerless over your own thoughts, like they just happened to you.
Totally. That sense of being swept away, it's very relatable. But Tom had a good counter, I thought. The analogy of training a muscle.
Right. It's not like flipping a switch. It takes practice, doesn't it? Patience, consistency. You wouldn't expect to lift a heavy weight on day one.
Exactly. It's a process.
Yeah.
And you got to be kind of kind to yourself along the way.
That's key, especially when you think about the sheer volume. They mentioned thousands of thoughts every single day.
Thousands. It's kind of staggering when you actually stop to consider it.
It is. And with that many, it's almost inevitable that a chunk of them are going to be, well, less than positive or just distracting.
Yeah, definitely not all sunshine and rainbows up there. They can easily become overwhelming sources of anxiety, which I think hits home for a lot of people. They actually posed that question, didn't they? Something like, do you ever feel overwhelmed by thoughts? Find it hard to stay present?
Yeah, they did. It's that feeling of your mind just spinning, often not in a helpful direction.
Which leads nicely into their next metaphor. The mind is a garden.
Yes, the garden. I like that one. It's quite a visual way to think about it. Fertile ground, right?
Right. Capable of growing amazing things. But
weeds can pop up if you don't, tend to it.
That idea of tending, of active care, that really struck me. If you just neglect it.
Use their word, neglect.
Right. Then those negative thoughts, the weeds, they can really take root, crowd things out.
But the flip side, the empowering part, is realizing you're the gardener.
Okay, yeah.
You get to decide what gets watered, what gets cultivated, which thoughts you nurture, and which ones you, well, maybe gently pull out. It's about being intentional.
Okay, but, and this is the big but that Hen brought up. What about that feeling I can't control my thoughts? It just feels impossible sometimes.
It does. It really does. And I think part of that is maybe misunderstanding what control means here. It's less about wrestling your thoughts into submission, which honestly often backfires, and more about awareness, like Tom described it, recognizing the negative thought when it pops up.
Okay, so you see it?
You see it. And then you make a conscious choice not to let it dominate everything, not to give it all the power over how you feel or what you do next.
They had that example, didn't they, about a new project?
Yeah. So you're facing something new, maybe a bit challenging, and that little voice pipes up, oh, what if I fail?
Happens all the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But then what? That's the pivot point. You can let that fear take hold, maybe stop you in your tracks.
Oh.
Or you do what Tom suggested. You acknowledge the thought,
like,
okay, brain, thanks for the warning, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
But then you consciously reframe it.
Reframe it how?
Something like, okay, this is challenging, but hey, it's also a chance to learn something. Even if I stumble, that's part of growing. You shift the narrative.
So acknowledge, maybe thank it, which is interesting, and then consciously choose a different thought to focus on. Don't just let the first negative one run the show.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
And this isn't just, feel-good talk. They brought in some pretty startling data from the National Science Foundation, apparently.
Oh, yeah? What was that?
Get this. Roughly 80%, 80 of our daily thoughts tend towards the negative.
80%? Wow. That's a lot.
It is. And maybe even more striking, 95% of our thoughts are repetitive. The same ones, day in, day out.
Okay. 80% negative, 95% repetitive. That explains a lot about feeling stuck sometimes, doesn't it? Like you're just running the same negative track over and over.
It really does. It suggests we might have this kind of default setting towards Well, maybe not pessimism, but certainly caution or worry.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps an old evolutionary thing.
Could be. Like scanning for threats was more important for survival back then.
Possibly, yeah. But that 95% repetition is huge. It means without consciously stepping in, we just reinforce those same worries, those same anxieties. Like Hen's examples.
Right, worrying constantly about work or replaying relationship anxiety.
Exactly. It's that mental groove getting deeper and deeper. The broken record thing.
So how do you break that cycle? Did they offer strategies?
They did. Meditation came up. Specifically, mindfulness practices.
Ah, mindfulness. Seems to be everywhere these days.
Well, there seems to be good reason. They mentioned some research backing it up, a big meta-analysis from 2014.
Okay.
Yeah, published in a major medical journal, JAMA Internal Medicine. It looked at 47 different studies.
And what did it find?
It found that meditation programs, mindfulness-based ones, can actually help improve symptoms of anxiety, depression, even physical pain in some cases.
So there's solid evidence behind it. It's not just anecdotal.
Seems so. It helps you kind of step back from the thoughts, observe them without getting tangled up. You'd create a bit of space.
Space between you and the thought itself.
Yeah. You start to see them as just thoughts, mental events passing through, not necessarily ultimate truths or commands you have to obey. It helps break those repetitive loops.
Like Tom's analogy, the mind as a supercomputer needing an upgrade, meditation being that upgrade.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
Tuning it up, reducing the background static.
Okay. Now, switching gears slightly, but still connected, because their original podcast is about learning English. They pulled out some specific vocabulary.
Oh, right. Good point.
And I thought, for our listeners interested in language too, maybe we should quickly touch on those words. They kind of give us more tools to talk about this stuff.
Makes sense. Language shapes understanding. What was the first one?
Daunting. Daunting. They used it when talking about how trying to control your mind might feel at first.
Right. So scary or difficult initially.
Intimidating.
Exactly. Intimidating was the synonym they used. Examples like starting a new job, moving somewhere totally new. Things that feel big and maybe a bit scary.
Okay, daunting. Got it. What was next? Neglect. Neglect. Came up with the garden metaphor.
Ah, right. To neglect is to ignore something, not give it attention, like neglecting your health, or in this case, neglecting your mental garden, letting the weeds grow.
Yeah. Or overlooking small problems until they get big, that kind of thing.
Makes sense.
Innovative. Innovative.
So new, creative, original.
Yep. They use Steve Jobs as an example, someone known for innovative ideas, always coming up with something new or different.
Okay. Innovative. And after that?
Exhilarating. Exhilarating.
Exhilarating. Yeah. Really exciting. Full of energy.
Exactly. That rush you get. Their examples were things like skydiving or maybe a really amazing concert, something thrilling.
Gotcha. Exhilarating. Keep them coming.
Next was resilient. Resilient.
Ah, resilience. That's a big one in psychology, being able to bounce back.
Yeah, recovering quickly from difficulties, like finding a new job if you lose one, or how a community rebuilds after a storm, being tough, adaptable.
And how does that relate to thoughts?
Well, being resilient mentally means not letting negative thoughts or bad moods completely flatten you, bouncing back from them.
Right. Not letting setbacks derail you for too long. Okay, one more.
Last one was cautious. Cautious.
Cautious. So just being careful, avoiding risk.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Simple examples like looking both ways before crossing the street or, researching before you invest money. Being careful, not reckless.
And thinking cautiously might mean not just accepting every thought automatically, especially the negative ones.
Yeah, maybe examining them a bit before buying into them completely.
Interesting. So that vocabulary adds another layer to thinking about and discussing all this.
Definitely. So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, what are the big takeaways for you thinking about this source?
For me, it really reinforces that our minds are incredibly powerful, yeah, but they benefit hugely from conscious attention. Like that garden needs tending.
Right. It won't just magically stay perfect on its own.
Exactly. And acknowledging that, okay, negative thoughts happen, repetitive thoughts really happen. That 80-95 split is wild, but that's kind of normal. The crucial part is knowing you have agency.
Agency. The ability to act.
Yeah.
To choose how you respond.
Mm-hmm. You're not just passively experiencing your thoughts. You can become aware, you can challenge, you can reframe, and things like mindfulness or even just having the right words like we just discussed. They're tools.
Useful tools for that gardening work.
Precisely.
So maybe a final thought to leave everyone with. building on that, now that you're maybe more aware of just how many thoughts are buzzing around and how many might be negative or repetitive, what's maybe one small, concrete step you could take, like today, to be a more conscious gardener of your own mind?
Ooh, I like that. Practical application.
Yeah. Like what's one little weed you might notice and decide, you know what, I'm not going to water that one today. Or one repetitive worry you could just observe instead of feeding.
Just one small shift. Interesting thing to reflect on. What might that look like for you? Something to mull over after this deep dive.